My name is Anish, and I am the Chief Technology Officer at Quilt Data. And Quilt's mission is to define the standard unit of enterprise data so that people and machines can learn faster. And I'm here to talk today about a case study that we did with a Fortune 500 bank titled Empowering Quants to Trade Faster. So most modern trading firms, modern investment banks will tell you that they're data-driven. But the fact of the matter is, if you actually look at their data systems, their data is a mess. And it's a mess scattered across dozens of different data sources, dozens of job titles, and dozens of organizational silos. And the result of this data confusion, or this bird's nest that you're looking at, is that no one in the organization has a complete and accurate picture of the latest data. And in a world like quantitative finance, where people are looking for leading indicators, and where milliseconds matter, if you miss the data, you miss the trade, and you miss the profit on that trade. And so I'm here to talk to you today about some really interesting new technological paradigms that we're pioneering, and it's the idea of a data registry or a data router. And the purpose of a data router is to integrate all of your enterprise data sources so that all the analysts are on the same page. The surprising insight that I'm going to share with you today is this radical idea that data is the new code. People say data is the new oil. That's old for me. The fact of the matter is, in 2017, we have great source code management paradigms, but really poor data management paradigms. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the new paradigms we're introducing to make data management smoother and faster. So our client is GFS Bank. This is a Fortune 500 bank. They're a global banking and financial services firm with over $1.5 trillion in assets under management. We wanted to get this case study out fast, so I've proxied the name of the bank as GFS Bank. Let me talk to you a little bit about their existing data pipeline. So you have the parent bank purchasing data assets for use as leading indicators. And these are really interesting things. They're like analyses of satellite images of Walmart parking lots, right? So looking at Walmart parking lots, they're looking at oil refineries, and they're trying to get a sense of what is supply and what is demand forthcoming. And then they take these assets and they distribute them to about 20 quants across 8 subsidiaries inside of the parent bank. And the goal of these assets, the real purpose of these assets, is to feed predictive models. And here's the life of a single Excel file, a purchased asset, before they implemented Quilt as a solution. So the thing to note, really, instead of getting caught up in the individual steps, this is a very manual, error-prone process. So the bank is acquiring assets. Very expensive data engineers are then uploading these files to blob storage. They're then taking links to blob storage, posting that to the wiki. The links break, the files get corrupted, every quant needs a different API to access the data. Once they finally do access the data, then they can generate a model, and if it isn't too late, they tend to try to trade on that data. And so the real thing to get here is that if you have a data management pipeline which is manually driven and labor intensive, you're not helping your quants to maximize their return on data. So we're going to talk through the logistics of how we help to automate their data pipeline. And the real thing that I want everybody to understand is that modern data science, the tragedy of modern data science, is that there's not a lot of science involved. And the reason is 80% of data science is dominated by data prep. And so this is a Jupyter notebook, which is a workhorse in data science, where GFS Bank does a lot of their quantitative analysis. And if you actually X-ray the code, you'll see that most of the code is finding, cleaning, and organizing files. And so the idea here is that if we want to make these precious resource, quants, data scientists, inside of our organization more effectively, we need to get them off the firing line of data prep, so that instead of their job being just 21% science, it can be up to 80% science. I'm going to show you how we accomplish that transformation. So data prep is a drag, and what do we do next? Well, the answer is, instead of having quants work with files, we want them to work with something called a data package, which we're pioneering. I mentioned earlier that we're helping to define the standard unit of enterprise data, and the idea behind a data package is that you can take any data dependencies that your analysts need to complete an analysis. They could be Excel files, images, database tables, and you roll them up into this single, tracked, versioned, deployable asset. So a data package at its very core is virtualized data plus metadata that tracks where everything came from. Does anybody know why virtualization is important in this context? So at GFS Bank, we have quants working in Python, quants working in R, quants working in Excel, and it's really painful if every quant has a slightly different method that they need to access the data. So the key value of virtualization is this that this data is now consistent across Python, across R, across Spark, across sales teams, across engineering teams, across accounting teams, so that everybody has the same complete and accurate picture of the data. And here at a code level is the transformation. This is the difference for the analyst, for the quants, right? On the left-hand side, when they're trying to get their data from files, again, most of their time is spent in data prep. On the right-hand side, they import their data package and they start working. So really what we're doing with packages is reducing the time to insight. And to give you a sense of head-to-head of what the bank had before they implemented Quilt as a solution, so on the left we have the super manual asset pipeline, which is both error-prone and time-consuming. And on the right, you can see it isn't perfect yet, but the key point there is that we get to that orange step on the bottom faster. And when you are looking for leading indicators that you want to trade and make money on, if you spend 80% of your time in data prep, by the time you're done, your leading indicator is a lagging indicator, right? So Quilt's job really, and the value that we provide to GFS, is we help their quants get data into code. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is that you as an organization should be thinking about how you maximize your return on data. Don't worry about measuring how much data you can collect. Worry about how quickly you can leverage the data assets that you have. And so the big change, and the real numbers is that once you move away from numerous and confusing files into singular deployable data packages, you have to do about 1/4 of the amount of data prep. Your I/O gets 10 times faster because all the data is serialized. And the key thing, your quants can do their job on better information faster. Some of the data engineers at GFS Bank have described Quilt as a seamless way to make quants successful. And there were a couple of surprising lessons that we learned in the process of implementing the solution. So the first surprise is that don't rely, although data scientists and quants are the key beneficiaries of data packages, they're not the champions. Quants are too busy worrying about how to make things work to think about infrastructure. So this is a great case study in how multifunctional teams help one another solve problems that aren't natural, but are hugely productive when you do solve them. So you want a data engineering function or an IT function that is only thinking about infrastructure while your quants are thinking about modeling. So again, the surprising insight here, the people who benefit the most from packages are not the champions. It's the people who have the time and the skill set to think about infrastructure. Another thing, which I'll show you when we get to the product demo, is that users actually document data when you have a data catalog where people can see what other people are doing. Shame is the most powerful motivator in human behavior. And if people are just dumping things into a database or dumping things into a Dropbox folder, there's no accountability. But when you have what I'm going to show you in just a moment, when you have a shared data catalog, which is what Quilt creates for you, you can now see on a per package basis, you can see who created the package, you can see when they created it. Each package has a distinct version that identifies that data uniquely. It's one line of code to grab that data and one line of code to inject that data into code. And here's the surprising thing. I was just talking about documentation. When people know that other people are going to look at their work, they actually take the time to document the schemas, to document the use of the data. And this is, again, this idea behind return on data. It doesn't matter how much data you're collecting, it matters how much data you can actually use. And documentation is a critical portion of that. So I guess the last surprising insight here is that data is the new code, right? And if we look at the trajectory of compute in the last 3 years, Docker containers have become the standard unit of compute. And in the next 3 years, we believe that a standard unit of data will emerge that will be an order of magnitude gain in the productivity that analysts have working with data. And the thought I want to leave you with is this idea of maximizing return on data. Return on data means that for every data that you collect, your decisions get better and your organization is able to make more money. And the characteristics of that are your data should be discoverable because it's automatically cataloged. It should be reproducible because it's versioned. It should be auditable because there's a full access log, again, automatically as a result of using data packages. It should be compliant. And we've built, as part of Quilt, certain compliance modules for GDPR and OFAC so that when you package that data, the data engineers can guarantee that it only contains compliant data. And of course, it should be secure. And on the security front, The fewer passwords that you have spread around, the simpler your security model gets. So this data router that we've been talking about becomes the singular source of ground truth for the analysts. So that, at a very high level, is empowering quants to trade faster. You can learn more on quiltdata.com or find me on Twitter. I'm acarve. And you'll have access to our case study in the form of a PDF on our main site, /docs/quants.pdf. I'll be around for a few minutes if you have any questions. Thank you for your time.